Let us see the next question. The following information has been extracted from the books of ABS Limited. At the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, raw material, WIP and finished goods balances are given. Other information is given: average debtors, average creditors, annual purchases, wages and overhead, selling expenses and sales is given. All purchases and sales are on credit basis. You need not to provide this. That is a basic assumption that we always have. The company is willing to know net operating cycle, amount of the working capital requirement, considering that there are 360 days in a year. So friends, when we are doing the second part of the question, at that time we are required to use the formula of the working capital cycle for doing answer of the working capital calculation. This is what we should understand. That is over here. Calculation of the working capital cycle is very simple. We understand that we are required to calculate the raw material holding period, WIP holding period, finished goods holding period, average collection period, average payment period. Like that, these are the things which are required to be found. And later on, we are required to make the computation of the working capital requirement in the business. So better in the first part of the question answer, we compute the cost of sales. Okay, that is raw material consumption plus wages and everything that we will do. Once we prepare that kind of cost sheet statement, that will help us for doing answer. Because over here you can see that the number of information have been given. So I just explained that to you, and I wish you complete the working on your own. Answer for the first part of the question, in which we are required to find the operating cycle. Net operating cycle means operating cycle only. Operating cycle, in that, let me explain you first of all working note number 1, calculation of cost of sales. How we will compute the cost of sales? We will make the calculation like this. Direct material consumption, it will be calculated as opening plus purchase minus closing is the consumption. Then we have been given the direct wages and overhead. Then at this point of time, we'll adjust the WIP. So add opening WIP less closing WIP. So we'll get the factory cost, or we can also say that it is cost of goods produced. Okay, this is the value of the goods produced. Then we will add opening finished goods. We will deduct closing finished goods. Again, after making these two adjustments, we'll get the cost of goods sold. Then selling expenses have been given. Cost of goods sold plus selling expenses will give cost of sales. From sales, cost of sales can be calculated, that is deducted to compute the profit or loss, but there is no requirement of the same. This statement will help us later on to make all the calculation. For example, as far as the WIP holding period is concerned, for that the factory cost can be used. For like the finished goods holding period, COGS value can be used. And importantly friends, what will happen over here, just a clarification, that this time the information is available with us about the opening and closing. So we are required to use the average. How to do that? we'll understand it once we complete this working note. So we start with the direct material consumption, in which kindly use a calculator. Opening raw material stock is 1 lakh, purchase is 15 lakh 70,000, and the closing is 70,000. So the opening stock is 1 lakh plus purchase is 15 lakh 70,000 minus closing is 70,000. So the answer is 16 lakhs. Direct wages and overhead 17 lakh 50,000. Opening WIP 140 and closing is 2 lakhs. That is the way factory cost or cost of goods produced is calculated. Use a calculator. 16 lakhs plus 17 lakh 50,000 plus 140 minus 2 lakhs. 32 lakh 90,000. Dear students, this will be useful to us later on for calculation of the WIP holding period. Finished goods opening is 230 and closing is 270. So this is 230 and this is 270. So 32 lakh 90,000 plus 2 lakh 30,000 minus 2 lakh 70,000. That is 32 lakh 50,000. To that, the selling expenses would be added. It is 3 lakh 20,000. So it is 35 lakh 70,000. This is the way we are required to compute the cost of sales. This is what we understand. So now let us see how to do answer further. Calculation of time period. In that we understand raw material holding period is equal to 360 days divided by raw material consumption into average raw material stock. This is what we understand. So it is 360 days upon the annual consumption of the raw material is 16 lakhs into average raw material stock is opening plus closing into 1 by 2. So it is 360 lakh, so 360 days upon 16 lakhs into opening stock is 1 lakh, closing is 70,000. So average of both of them is 85,000. So 360 days upon 16 lakhs into 85,000. So 360 into 85,000 divided by 16 lakhs, that comes to 19.125 days. So I'm taking 19.13 days. I'm taking answer up to 2 decimals. That is the way the raw material holding period is found. Similarly, we'll make further calculation of, let us say, WIP holding period. I request all of you to write down answer along with me. 360 days divided by factory cost. into average WIP stock. So it is 360 days upon factory cost is an amount of 32,90,000 into average WIP stock is opening plus closing into 1 by 2. So 360 days upon 32,90,000 into what is the opening WIP? It is 140 and closing is 2 lakhs. 1,40,000 plus 2 lakhs into 1 by 2. So 360 days upon 32,90,000 into 1,40,000 plus 2 lakhs divided by 2, 1,70,000. So 360 into 170 upon 32,90,000, that is 18.60 days. That is WIP holding period. So on, will compute the finished goods holding period, average collection period, average payment period, and then will compute the working capital cycle. Next is finished goods holding period. It is 360 days upon COGS, cost of goods sold, into average finished goods stock. So 360 days upon COGS, cost of goods sold is an amount of 32,50,000 into average is opening plus closing into 1 by 2. 360 days upon 32,50,000 into 2,30,000 plus 2,70,000 whole into 1 by 2. 360 days upon 32,50,000 into average 230 plus 270 divided by 2, that comes to 2,50,000. So 360 into 250 divided by 32,50,000, so 27.69 days. That is what we understand. Next is average collection period. In that case, it is 360 days divided by, dear students, as I explained you, whatever the data's value which is given to us in the question is always at the sales value. So right now, I will write over here annual credit sales multiplied with debtors. This is the way we have to apply the formula. So 360 days upon annual credit sales is an amount of 42 lakhs and average debtors is 2,10,000. So this is 42 lakhs and this is 2,10,000. So 360 into 2,10,000 upon 42 lakhs. That comes to 18 days. Next, average payment period. It is 360 days upon annual credit purchase. Multiplied with creditors. So it is 360 days upon annual credit purchase. It is 15,70,000 and average creditors is 3,14,000. Both of them have been provided to us ready-made. So here annual credit purchase is 15,70,000 multiplied with 3,14,000. Directly average values are given to us. 360 into 3,14,000 upon 15,70,000. That comes to 72 days. Friends, writing all these formulas and doing this is mandatory. Okay. The thing is that if we are doing extra, all these things are mandatory to be done. Friends, again we are doing this question from exam, that is which have been asked by institute in examination. By doing these questions, you can definitely understand that from examination point of view, you should be clear with the concept. You should be able to execute the answer, and with that you will be able to do answer. Because number of times this kind of lengthy questions are also asked in examination. And preferably you should be able to recognize these kind of lengthy questions, so that you can understand that these kind of questions are to be done later on and short questions are to be done early. So final answer of the first question, net operating cycle. It is raw material holding period plus WIP holding period plus finished goods holding period plus average collection period minus average payment period. Raw material holding period is 19.13 days, WIP is 18.60 days, finished goods is 27.69, average collection is 18, average payment period is 72. Keeping all of them over here will compute the answer. So now finally the answer will be like this. Use your calculator. 19.13 plus 18.60 plus 27.69 plus 18, that is 83.42 minus 72, that comes to 11.42 days. This is the answer of the first question. Now second question answer, I want you to tell me, write your answer in the chat box, that what is the amount of the working capital requirement. And as I told you that importantly over here we have to understand that the second part of the question answer is required to be given based on the working capital cycle that we have found in the first part of the question. So write an answer for the second question. Calculation of working capital requirement. In that write down, working capital will be calculated using working capital cycle. Full stop. In that, annual expenses divided by 360 days into working capital cycle. So here it is 11.42. So this is obviously 11.42 days. In the division we will have 360 days. Multiplying with the annual expense. Friends, annual expense is an amount of 35,70,000. So here it is 35,70,000 is numerator. So 35,70,000 divided by 360 into 11.42. So it is 1,13,248. So this is what we understand is the working capital investment that we have based on working capital cycle. So final summary of the entire answer. In order to compute the operating cycle, we are required to make the computation of the cost of sales. I think that as a student it is very important for you to understand that say by preparing this note, it will be very simple for me to do answer. Because for the purpose of factory cost, for the purpose of calculation of the COGS, this working note is going to be too much helpful to you. So we have made the computation of the simple working, there is nothing great to be done, cost of the sales. Then the time period working note, for raw material, we have to focus on the raw material consumption. For WIP, we have to focus on the factory cost. And in respect of the stock, we are required to take importantly the average stock. For finished goods, of course, the average finished goods and COGS. Collection period, in that say importantly we understand that whatever the data's valuation which is given to us in the question is at sales value. Average payment period based on the purchases, and based on that so the net operating cycle or working capital cycle or cash cycle is calculated. In the second part of the question, calculation of the working capital requirement is very simple. Annual expenses divided by number of days into working capital cycle. One important thing that's over here, I always suggest students to do answer up to 2 decimal points. That is the way we are required to do the calculation of the answer. So this is what we understand over here.